Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanitybooks. Today is a shout out to Salvatore Books. Thank you for supporting this channel for the last year. He has also subscribed to our children's channel and there has been a lot of engagement. It's been wonderful. And more specifically, he's recommended an author that he follows by the name of Brian Berry. And with this book Snow Shark, yes, it is something that was a bit of a different genre to take, or something exciting. So if you do like certain B-grade movies, such as Tremors, or maybe something more extreme like Sharknado, or whatever else, maybe this book might be for you, or more of the sort of books that he's written. I'll touch on some things within this video, but for now, we'll just get into it. Number 1. Why this book? I don't know. There was just something with someone else that I've seen talk about the book before, but not necessarily review the book. And it just felt like something that I think was a unique idea. There are other books, such as Snow Shark 2 and Space, that for me just felt a little bit too carried away. However, with this book it was surprisingly engaging. So I found it was well written, and there wasn't anything wasted with any of the dialogue, and there was no nonsense in wasting time within the setting. I also found it took you into a different place. I don't know what it's like within the snow. I don't have much experience except for a few hours years ago. So there was something about escaping to that environment, and then with the shark to what it was, being a mechanical shark, not necessarily a ghost shark or something like that. I don't know, I found it was a bit more surprising than what I was expecting for the book to be. Number 2, violence. With the book, I didn't feel like it was survival horror. It didn't feel like it was something that was gore, and it didn't feel like torture. I also found it was well written to explain certain character deaths within the story, and it still kept a consistent flow, and it was still well written to what happened, specifically how certain characters met their demise, but it wasn't written in a sort of gory sort of way as what you would expect with certain R-rated films. So I do like how it had that consistency with the story. I have seen certain films and I've read certain books where you're reading along and it feels some consistency, and then something happens that's too out there and it just doesn't fit into the story for a better flow. That's how I feel, but this book didn't have that problem. Number 3. 26 chapters. I found on Kindle it says it's 200 pages for the book. It could be different to what the real product is. However, I felt like each chapter was a reasonable length to follow on a specific part of the story without dragging into too many scene changes and scene breaks. It had consistency with this book, and from having more chapters and less word count per chapter, I found it was simple in a good way that kept a consistent flow of stories. One thing I don't like is reading a big thick book with such small print, and it's 50 pages for a chapter. So you almost feel like you read an entire book just to get through one chapter, because there's no scene changes, there's no scene breaks, there's no consistency with telling the story. I felt this was an easy book to follow, and it was easy to get into the setting from scene change to scene change. Number 4, theme consistency. From a lot of the books that I've noticed looking into the list, and I calculate well over 75 books, I wouldn't have a definitive number at this stage. And I feel there were so many books that have a lot of reviews and has done quite well and is successful. With the subject matter of the content of the stories, he has kept to a particular theme of 80s and 90s action films or horror movies. So I think with the consistency, even though there might be a little bit of a transition between genres, the themes do keep consistent. And that is also a point when you do write a particular type of genre, is keeping that consistency with your readers. And yes, some authors can branch out into some other stories. Between some can write horror stories and write comedies, or mix into doing children's books of all things around doing R-rated horror stories. Might be a complete mismatch on a complete opposite end of a spectrum, though with this author, yes, I have to say the constant 80s and 90s theme feel with the stories was just something enjoyable. And when you look at how there's so many movies and things made out today, I don't know, I think a lot of these stories can actually go well for certain B-grade movies to be created. Maybe some C-grade movies, that's just an opinion, or maybe an afterthought without looking into more information on what else Brian Berry has done. However, I do think there are some stories that have potential for good cinematic movies to be created, but that's a different story. Number 5, final thoughts. I'm just going to have in the side just showing up some different photos of different book titles that he has created specifically, and just have a look through, look him up on Amazon, and you might find yourself some interesting reads. Otherwise, as my final thoughts, I have to say I had my skepticism to have some negative overviews first, because I thought with the amount of B-grade films that come out, especially in the genre of creating Ghost Shark and Snow Shark and Six-Headed Shark and that type of thing, I feel like he gets overdone. I just think he has done a fantastic job as an author to actually surprise me with what he has done. And I think with the amount of books that he has created, I think there is a lot more to consume for content. However, I don't have enough time to read all of his books, but if you do have some other recommendations, I'm certainly interested to give another book a read. Otherwise, I have to say, as an author, congratulations. You've created some interesting books, and I think you've found something that you're passionate about, and sticking to that consistent theme between 80s and 90s sort of genres, I think go for it. Keep doing what you're doing, and enjoy what you love most, and keep writing more books. Otherwise, that's it for today. Hit like, subscribe, comment. If you do have some other books to recommend, please leave a link in the comments and I'll check it out. Otherwise, that is another story and shall be told another time.